Hello, watchers of the internet. This is Ted, Black Pearl Voyager channel. And we're out in the garage today because I was going to go over some of the plans and modifications I have for this 78 Wagoneer here. I've hinted at it somewhat in a few of my videos, and it has generated a mild amount of curiosity. So I thought I'd give it the once around, let you know what we have and what it is and what we plan on doing with it. I started on the front end because it is so clean and straight that all I had to do was disassemble it, polish it up a little bit, paint it. Down the sides is a little different. We've got this old sticky stuff here, and that's been a real pain in the butt to remove. But I have some replacement stuff, and this will all come off, and the wood grain will go back on, but I don't plan on painting it, if you can believe that. I did do all new seals here, new window wipes. It's looking pretty good. One of the first things I did was, interior wise, I freshened up the dashboard some. But if you look at the pad, let me get this out of the way, it's in perfect condition. Of course, I got the door panels off because I'm working on soundproofing and that kind of thing. The seats probably need some reupholster. I don't plan on doing a whole lot of stuff there. The interior is looking pretty good considering what it is. A very old Jeep. So we're still working on the lift. And I've started on the back here. Part of the problem is it's so old that I have to spray the hardware days or sometimes weeks in advance in order to be able to get the nuts and bolts out. I've completed the front and I've started on the back. Most of the nuts and bolts are loose and free. These are loose. The only thing that's not is that up there. And if I had them loose, then I could, drop this axle down, take the springs out, put the new ones in, raise the axle up. But like I said, I'm not ready to do that yet. So these shocks, who knows how long those have been in there since you can't change them.
Nope, and I think I've had this for 20 years.
What the hell's holding that up there? I'm having a little trouble with that forward leaf spring mount, and I imagine I'll have some problems with this rear leaf spring mount too. The only other thing I face back here that's a real challenge is that with the auxiliary gas tank installed, it has to be removed. Has to be removed in order to remove the right-hand shock, or the driver's side shock, I should say. Here's a little bit of the work I've been doing on removing the old stuff. It is one of the hardest jobs I've encountered so far. No amount of heat seems to be enough, and so we're down to scraping. Got the front lift finished. 6-inch lift from Rusty's. I've been through most everything under here, and the only real challenge I had here was the steering knuckle there. I actually had to cut that off. No amount of wheel puller or heat was enough, but as you can see, that's quite a bit of clearance. And that's quite a lift. 6 inches is a lot. I really like that we managed to find some stock wheels for it. They happen to have those tires on it, and those are 31 1050s. I have, though, spec'd out some 33 1050 BF Goodrich KO2s, and so those will be going on it eventually. A lot of the work I've been doing has been under the hood also. The valve covers were leaking, the gaskets have been replaced and they've been painted. The carburetor needed rebuilding, it's been rebuilt, and I've got it tuned pretty well now so it runs fairly reliably. I still get a little nervous when I take it out of the driveway here for a run, whether or not it'll get me home or not. That's probably not good, but anyway, new cap, new plugs, new wires. It actually does run pretty good. Idle smooth, doesn't hesitate or miss. I did a compression check. All the cylinders are 140 to 150 with good consistency. I had to drop the oil pan in order to install that dipstick. Someone had broken the dipstick off, and the only way to put a new one in is to drop the pan and push that out from inside. So it gave me an opportunity to clean up the oil pan and install that dipstick and seal up any leaks that might have been coming from there. Anyway, someone has already taken all of the EGC stuff, equipment off of it, which is good. I do have some vacuum issues. I replaced a lot of vacuum hoses and went through the heater fan motor, but I'm not getting a lot of heat inside the cab because the controls for the climate are actually vacuum operated, and if you don't get the mapping right when you put your dash back together, when you push those buttons, it doesn't pull open the defroster vent or pull open the floor vent. I don't know if those actuators are gone bad or if I just have it mapped incorrectly. I haven't been able to find anything on the internet or in the manual, I've got a manual for it, about where those three hoses go that control the climate control directionality. So I'm dealing with that. Of the back, I've kept the original badging. It'll go back on. All of these chrome pieces will go back on. And yeah, it's going to be a fun project. But it requires quite a bit of time. That's all I have is time. I've got nothing but time. And that's why it's really not finished, because every time I come out here to work on it, it requires a commitment of time, which is okay, except I've destroyed 2 pairs of pants and 3 t-shirts getting in and out from underneath this thing.
You guess what?
Right, well, I'm down here. I might as well take this off here in an hour.
I can get it from this side probably.
I'm not so sure. It's taking all my strength. It's coming loose now.
I was just thinking of your shoulder.
Maybe what is that, 3/4 ratchet in.
6 hours later.
Yep. Well, that's what I'm saying. This takes forever, especially if you're working alone.
Yeah.
Getting up and down for tools. As you can see, I'm working in fairly cramped quarters. I don't have a lift. All I have is my garage, and it takes up most of the room in here. So that's where we're going so far. Lots of work to do to restore these kinds of things. I thought I had my windshield washers working. They're all plumbed correctly. I cleaned them all out and then discovered that this motor leaks. And so when I came out a few hours later, the tank was empty. So I know someone makes an aluminized, I believe it is BJ's Off-Road has something to replace that with. At what cost, I'm not sure. So I used to be able to open the hood all the way up in here, but with the 6-inch lift, not so much. But it is a nice lift. It gives it a beautiful stance, and I think it's going to be fun. So stay tuned. Here's a look at the back seat. I put the door cards in here to have a safe place to keep them. And as you can see here, I replaced the door wipes back here, lubed up all of the mechanisms. I had to put in new door locks because these were just completely shot, and I weren't able to lock and unlock the door. But all in all, it's in fairly good shape. I've got a little issue I've got to deal with here. I don't know what holds that down in there, but that's all the fun of discovery. So yeah, this will be a work in progress. Of course, it needs a new headliner, as you can see, or something done with it. But we hope to be able to take this out, do some overlanding with it, maybe do some tent camping. The possibilities are endless. Some of the things that I mentioned in the walk around didn't get much detail. So things like the engine, for instance. It's a 360 AMC, and it has a number of parts that come from different vehicles. I believe the distributor, which I had to replace because I couldn't find just the vacuum advance mechanism, which is nothing more than a diaphragm. Still searched for hours online and at auto parts stores and never really could find one. So I just replaced the entire distributor so it would have a working vacuum advance. I mentioned also that the compression was between 145 and 150 on all cylinders, which I was a little surprised. I don't know the history of this engine. I don't know if it's the original. I imagine it is, but I don't know how many miles it has on it or if it has been rebuilt. But the compression is good. The only thing it suffers from right now is an unusual low oil pressure indication. Now, that could be a gauge. It could be the sending unit. I still have yet to investigate that. Also, the transmission seems to be in excellent running condition, and the fluid looks good. It's not burnt smelling. It's the right color. It shifts very well, but I do have an issue with the Borg-Warner 1339 transfer case that's in it. It's an all-wheel drive, full-time four-wheel drive or quadra-track, and it's a fine gearbox except that it's chain-driven. And after a while, the chain gets stretched, or the tensioner goes loose, something. But it makes a popping noise sometimes under acceleration, and I'm envisioning that the chain is jumping, and so I'll be pulling that. It also leaks pretty badly. You can get chain replacement for it and gaskets for it, so I'll be looking forward to do that. The only other thing I was going to do with this particular engine was remove the carburetor and install what you see here, this E Street fuel injection system. So here's the plan. I acquired this Edelbrock E Street EFI system in a trade for a 68 Mercury Cougar that I have waiting to be picked up. And the plan is to swap out the 2-barrel carburetor, or the 2-barrel manifold that's on here now. The plan is to swap out the 2-barrel manifold with a 4-barrel manifold that I have from another engine block that was supposed to be for this vehicle. Okay. So I pulled the manifold off. I've got to do some cleanup on that. But aside from just the EFI system, I also have to update the fuel system with this universal sump pump. It needs high pressure fuel, and this will take a low pressure system like this one and bump it up to the high pressure necessary to use this E Street EFI system. The only other stumbling block is I've got to install this O2 sensor, which means I have to get to the exhaust system, drill a big enough hole at the proper angle, and either weld in a bung, or they have these clamp style bungs that I can use. The problem is it needs to go downstream to the point where the pipes, just after the pipes come together, and that area on this vehicle is a little inaccessible, and I may be having to mount it standing nearly straight up, which is okay. It just can't be hanging down. And in order to do that, to get room to get a drill to bit a hole big enough, I'm going to have to drop the exhaust system down, I'm pretty sure. And of course, if it ever needs to be replaced, I'll have to drop the exhaust system down again. These are all, problems that you encounter on a car that was designed and built 50 years ago or so. 40 years ago anyway. I don't do the math. Okay, so that's where we are so far on this thing. It's going to be a resto mod, I guess is what you call it. I don't plan on painting it. I'm just going to go ahead and buff this out. I'm going to keep it pretty much decrepit looking, or, well, looking its age. So, stay tuned. Keep looking for updates on this. If you're interested, let me know in the comments. If not, let me know in the comments. But projects like these are long-term, and I likely will not videotape or film everything. But I will definitely film some of the highlights, the installation and startup of this EFI system once it gets installed. Of course, I'll show you pictures of it when the lift is done and the tires and stock wheels are back on it, and things like that. But it won't be a running account of every little thing I've done to it. But I will mention little things that I've done to it as I remember them and as they come up in relevance. So, yeah, tune in again. This is Ted, the Black Pearl Voyager channel, and we'll see you again on another video. And remember, get out there.